What if I told you that your most difficult, most destructive emotions, the ones we all try to just push down and ignore, could actually be the key to unlocking your greatest strength? Well, today, we're diving into this idea of emotional alchemy. We're going to explore how to take that raw energy of anger, of frustration, and transform it into focused, creative power.
Oh, we've all been there, right? That sudden flash of heat, that clenching in your gut. It's this powerful, almost primal feeling. It's an urge that feels like it absolutely has to be released, often in ways that, let's be honest, we end up regretting later. But what is that energy really?
I mean, this scenario is just so relatable, isn't it? And in that split second, that urge to just act out, to maybe destroy a professional relationship or even your own reputation, it feels incredibly powerful. It's a rush for sure, but it's a fleeting and really dangerous one.
Okay, so let's really get into the raw material here. This destructive urge. Before we can even think about transforming this energy, we have to understand exactly what it is we're working with.
Just look at that image. It's not some gentle little stream. We're talking about an exploding boiler. Anger is basically a release valve for all this pent-up energy. If you try to hold it all in, it just causes damage inside. But when it's released without any control, it's just this massive, chaotic discharge of power.
And here, right here, is the core idea. We're always taught to see this energy as bad, something to be ashamed of. But what if that's completely wrong? What if you're sitting on a Ferrari engine, but you've been told your whole life it's just a broken down motor, because nobody ever gave you the owner's manual?
So, to find the source of this incredibly potent energy, we have to look into the parts of ourselves that, well, we usually prefer to ignore. Let's talk about our hidden shadow.
The famous psychologist Carl Jung gave us this concept. The shadow is essentially our psychological blind spot. It's like the basement of our mind, where we stuff all the impulses, the desires, and the traits that don't fit the shiny, perfect image we have of ourselves. Our anger, our aggression, all our insecurities.
This is the perfect illustration for this idea, the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. On one side, you've got Dr. Jekyll. That's the polished, respectable person we want everyone to see. But on the other, you have Mr. Hyde. That's the raw, impulsive, and, destructive shadow self that comes roaring out when it's been ignored for way too long.
And that's the real danger. Pushing the shadow down, pretending it's not there, it doesn't get rid of it. It just builds pressure. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Sooner or later, it's going to shoot to the surface. And that's when we find ourselves saying or doing things that feel completely out of character, almost like something else has taken the wheel. So, if repression is the problem, then what's the solution? Well, this is where we get to shift from being a victim of our own emotions to becoming an alchemist. It's all about adopting a mindset of transmutation.
This right here is the secret. The raw energy itself isn't good or bad. It's just neutral. Think about fire. You can use it to burn down a house, or you can use it to forge steel. The outcome depends entirely on how we choose to direct it.
And that, my friends, is emotional alchemy. It's the conscious, deliberate practice of taking this raw, volatile energy and refining it into something genuinely valuable, into understanding, into action, and into real personal growth.
So, how do we actually do this? Well, the framework is a pretty simple three-step process. First, just stop labeling your emotions. Instead of saying, I'm angry, try thinking, I'm feeling a state of energy. That tiny shift creates some distance. Second, map that energy to what it could be. Its positive potential. And finally, you consciously channel it toward a constructive goal.
All right, so let's get practical. What are the Alchemist's tools for this transformation? How do we actually turn something like rage into focus, or anxiety into awareness? This chart here shows that mapping process in action. And just think about it. That surge of anger you feel when someone steals your idea, that's not just rage. That is a massive source of energy that if you channel it, can become a fierce focus to protect your work or to finish a huge project. That nervous, jittery energy of anxiety, that's the raw material for sharp, heightened awareness.
Psychology actually has a name for this whole process: sublimation. And it's considered a sign of maturity. It's the process of taking those raw, aggressive, or kind of socially unacceptable impulses and transforming them into something valued, like incredible art, or a scientific breakthrough, or even great leadership.
So how do we get better at this? Well, you start with simple, practical tools. Journaling helps you start to see the patterns in your emotional responses. Mindful breathing creates that crucial pause.
that little bit of space between the trigger and your reaction, where you can actually make a choice. And body scans help you learn the language of your emotions before they totally explode.
So what is the ultimate reward for all this hard work? In alchemy, the goal was the legendary philosopher's stone. In our inner world, it's something even more valuable: a deep, unshakable sense of control and self-respect.
This so-called law of control suggests our happiness is directly tied to our sense of agency. Think about it. When we're slaves to our impulses, always giving in to that destructive urge, we feel out of control and ultimately unhappy. But when we master them, when we become the director of that energy, we gain a stable, lasting sense of well-being.
And this really brings us to a crucial choice, doesn't it? The path of destruction, lashing out, giving in, it offers a quick hit, a moment of feeling powerful, but it's a fleeting pleasure that always leads to regret and volatility. The path of transformation, it's harder. It takes discipline, but its rewards are enduring self-respect, real, lasting personal growth, and a deep, stable satisfaction that the quick fix could never, ever provide.
So let's be really clear. The goal here isn't to become some kind of emotionless robot. It's not about trying to get rid of your shadow. It's about having the courage to turn and face it, to understand it, and to integrate its power into your conscious life. It's about becoming whole.
So, the next time you feel that surge of anger or frustration, just pause. Recognize the immense power that's right there inside of it. Look, it's easy to unleash it for a quick, fleeting moment of destructive power. Anyone can do that. But the real, lasting strength, that comes from learning to control it and direct it. The choice of what to build with that energy is, and always will be, yours.